Hello everyone, hope you enjoyed season 46. Just a final video for the season and my recap for it. I was able to finally get lucky in my push today and make the legendary tier. This was essentially a push comprising of the last probably like 4 or 5 days without IT, so it was quite slow going. But got it done nevertheless. In terms of the tech tree, pretty much got everything that is needed opened up and maxed out. No useful node which is left out. That's always a good thing for a season, if you can plan your season to get the full tech tree unlocked. For me, it only happened yesterday with the final mine node, so it was a bit slow, but that's okay. In terms of the log, I was actually at my boss fight around half an hour ago, but matched a legendary Chinese player and he just did a fantastic time against me. I also messed up on my head. My previous times were around like 214, 215, so even that would probably have been a bit short, but that's okay. And then, as is typical, once you have a loss, you end up having another loss and end up having another loss. Not by much, by a few seconds, but at the end of the season, those 2 or 3 seconds is more than enough to swing the battle one way or the other. I'll go through my hits and then give a view on the season as well. So towards the end, I think my most common combo was 2 heavy choppers, 4 boat of bombers, and then 2 boat of seekers. The 2 boat of seekers are essentially for the top ERs under the sky shield. So I let the bombers do a bit of free clearing. I do end up shocking a few crit launches if I feel that they will slow down my bombers, because bombers do get stuck on the critters from the crit launchers. And delay dropping Kawan with the second wind as well to get a few meat shield in front of my bombers, as well as to spin up any additional bombers. This one was a bit short on GB, which is why I had to smoke my seekers and let the bombers kill the hotpot. But luckily, the hit was just about enough seconds to secure me the win. This was a similar style hit, and then I went on a bit of a downfall. Slow times, because I wasn't really managing the hit very well. And then again, I thought this would be a loss too, only at 2 minutes 7, but luckily the opponent was slightly slower. Slightly different base layout. So I went with 2 boats of bombers on the top side, just to help clear that out a bit quicker. And then as there were 2 critter launchers, I did end up using a shock for them. And then delay dropping command, getting rid of a few of the mines and hoping that the bombers which are created by Kawan, those can start to take the ER on the wall. This middle ER went down, and then I was able to get my seekers out, use a couple of shocks. I did not see the shock mine over there, so that was my bad. And then using those additional shocks to keep the seekers a bit more into action, and finishing off the ER with barrage and artillery. Nightwolf, I think he was legendary when we started the battle, so hard luck on that one. But maybe he was trying to go for top 50. I won't be pushing for that, because without IT it's really tough to accomplish that this late into the season. But I think I'm happy with the legendary finish. At least I get that rank 15 start, and then can hopefully make my way steadily into the next season. I did end up losing more bombers than I wanted to on this one, but then Kawan got them back, so that was good. Using the shock on the critter launcher again so that the bombers can take care of the ER, and then the seekers are on their way to the top. Sometimes I do run out of GB to use the shocks, but you just need to be careful if you're going with this style of a hit. Next one, 225, much better time, but this was a slightly different layout. I think people were experimenting with just hiding one ER at the back and everything else in the front. So I went with the similar sort of a head style, but one HE, two boats of bombers on both the ramps so that they can start to take out the ERs. And then I put Kawan on the side ramp so that I could get a bit more meat shield, as the bombers had to clear out 3 ERs over here, and they were a bit spread out as well. Once the hit got a bit underway, then I used a bit of critters to distract the defenses, clear out a few of the shock mines. I was unlucky on this side. My critter box didn't clear the shock mine over here, but that's okay. And then starting to clear down the sky shield so that I can deploy my seekers and can shock the shock launcher over there. And once the ER on the side ramp goes down, that's when I can deploy the seekers so that they go to the top ER. Over here on the bottom ramp, I didn't really have any meat shield left. It was just a critter launcher trying to, just a raw rocket launcher damaging my bombers. But they had enough, I think, in terms of numbers to get it done. So it wasn't too much of a risk. And then the final flare for the bombers, and then the seekers trying to kill down the ER while being hit by the hotpot, the flamethrower, and the shock launcher because I ran out of GB. Then 214. More of a standard layout, so more of a standard hit. And I think the key thing on these hits is just to probably see where the boom cannons are, where the rocket launchers are, so that you can either use some critters to protect your bombers or use some shocks if you need to, and get the early 3 ERs from the side ramp done as quickly as possible so that you can delay drop Kawan and his second winded bombers. Plus you can drop the seekers too. I was a bit slow on this one as I wasn't keeping track, and maybe I was just distracted with Kawan, but luckily it was just about enough to get the extra seconds to get the win. And over here the shock launcher did get a few of the seekers as I shot it slightly late because I was out of GB, but just about in enough time. Then Abdul Rahman, similar sort of a base layout, but the motors were pretty much all on one side. And like me, he also picked up the extra motors instead of the extra rocket launcher. That, I think, has worked out well for me at least, because it did add an extra building onto the map. I think most people can protect against rocket launchers because heavy choppers will be in front, or some shocks or critters. Everyone has those tools now. So probably the extra motor is much more helpful than an equivalent rocket launcher and motor. And then the seekers are finally on the way. Couple of shocks. Final Hail Mary for the ER. And then 2 shocks again to help out the seekers. And then the final bit of barrage and artillery to take down the ER. And finally, for the boss fight, another 4-second win. This one was slightly different layout, and since it was my boss fight, I thought let's try laser ranges again. The reason why I'm not using laser ranges too much is because of the lack of IT. And they are very fragile, so every hit I would lose all of them, no matter what the hit is. It would be only the second winded laser ranges which are keeping the hit going. But since this was a boss fight, I thought this might help me get an extra few seconds, and luckily I did win by 4 seconds. So maybe it was the laser ranges or just the luck. But they did a decent job of clear down the critter launchers. I got lucky with bomber split on this side, so they could take out an ER. And then this one board of Seeker is going to take out another ER to help out with the hit overall. Those were the hits. I think in terms of the season and the tech tree, I think this wasn't too bad. I always dislike like heavy rush seasons at the beginning, but luckily we did not have to spend too much time into it. We got through into the Grenadiers meta quite quickly, especially with those 100 keys which were given out. I did not max out my grins at that point in time, and I think even putting tokens into it was a waste, because with those extra keys I did get 2 bombers like one chest later. That was more of a panic unlock, so my bad on that one. And after that it was just trying to get the tools to help start using Kawan, so I went down the route of Kawan and rifles to go with the bombers. The rocket choppers I did not really max out until much later when I experimented, I think at probably 6 ER level. Those were still effective at that point, but probably not too much at 7 ER. I know a few people have used those, but towards the end it was either bombers or lasers or seekers. Then since I was already behind, I went down the route of laser rangers rather than heading to the 7 ER, to the 6 ERs and the 7 ER tech. It did slow me down, but it did allow me to keep farming diamond chests, and sometimes in a season that's all that you need. And then I pretty much just went forward, typical sort of unlocks. I did pick up bullet because I did try out a few seeker hits at 6 ER especially, and those were quite good. And even at early 7 ER I was able to do some seeker hits. But towards the end, without IT, seekers were just out of the question, apart from using a few boards here and there. But decent tech tree, I think. Base layouts were good too. I think the only bad thing about 7 ER is pretty much we get an open 7 ER from a lot of the seasons. The only interesting thing was the cutout on this one, but we have seen that 7 ER layout with both the ramps and pretty much the full map to be used. I don't think the cutout really made too much of a difference, to be honest, because the hits were still kind of similar. I think maybe it helped out with like a few anti-seeker layouts and so on. But towards the end, people who had those seeker tools, they were just clearing down these pieces quickly as well. In terms of the leaderboard, on the top 50, definitely very happy for my teammates, Roy, Falco, hopefully getting their first top 50 this season. Abu, great job. Commander Doom, as always, in the top area. Acepo, fantastic top 50 non-IT player, so I do need to take a few tips from him for the next few seasons. Great job, Commander Rob, coming in with another top 50. And my teammates in Sugarship 2.0, Igrisser, top 50. Tutalala and Mr. Boom. Mr. Boom's first top 50 as well. That's fantastic. Big Bear Bowling, solid player as always. And then the familiar names of Klinklong and Kaiser. Great job as usual. I think they might just miss out on top 5, but they have got those top 5s earlier. And in terms of top 5, Shiki Birki from Sugarship 2.0, definitely bringing it home in the top 5, hopefully. A few Chinese players again in those top 5 range. And I think Yenel Mez, not too sure where he's from, but great job to him too. The transfers just behind 0 AM. Great job, everyone. Hopefully, maybe a few more can make to legend if they try, but I think a lot of the folks have parked at 2450 for that rank 14 start. And for a non-IT gameplay, I think even in the UK, it isn't too bad. Getting that legend finishes quite sweet. That's about it for today, folks. hope you enjoy the off week, and then see you in season 47.